I think this is going to be an awesome kickoff opportunity for the 23 season for Goff, and the whole Lions team in general. This is an opportunity to upset the Super Bowl champs. Even without Travis Kelce there, even if he was there, we still would have had the same situation that we're looking at.
This is what they would call. This is what they would call a plant your flag game for them.
Taking one out of CBS's book here.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. So, but to me,
sorry,
Jared Goff had a great season last year. To me, he's an opportunity with weapons at wide receiver, getting Marvin Jones Jr. back, getting a rookie Sam Laporta at tight end, and Jahmyr Gibbs out the backfield. He's got weapons. He could spread the ball around, and even though he wasn't the biggest downfield threat passer last year, except for the 2 big bombs he threw to Jameson Williams, he doesn't need to do that. He doesn't need to do that to pick apart this defense that is going to be without Chris Jones pass rushing him.
Yeah, I mean, I like him here just because, I mean, look what he did opening week last year against the Eagles, who were a top defense last year, and now without Chris Jones, this is not a formidable defense.
Correct.
They're a decent defense. They're middle of the pack, but they are not this defense that is going to come after the quarterback and get after the quarterback and create turnovers and lock down receivers. Let's not forget, he still has Amon-Ra St. Brown. All right.
Absolutely. Top 10 receiver.
This is a year where Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to keep elevating his game. And he was a breakout last year. And I think he's going to break out again this year. And, you know, he has like same kind of upward trajectory that Justin Jefferson. The reason we like Justin Jefferson so much is because he just keeps getting better and better. But so does Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I think he has weapons around him with Sam Laporta, with Marvin Jones Jr., with Gibbs, with
Khalif Raymond. Like, he's got still weapons there.
There's weapons on this team. And Goff can throw downfield. We've seen, first of all, I mean, think back, 5 years ago when when he was at
the Rams. But I'm just saying, in recent history, he has not been
the most memorable game. The most memorable game of the last 10 years was that shootout game with the Kansas City Chiefs.
The ketchup and mustard game?
The ketchup and mustard game.
That was, to me, that was so one of my favorite games to watch because it just was score play after score play.
And all in like the last 6 or 7 minutes. But people forget that Jared Goff was the quarterback of that team. And he was shooting it out with them. This is the reason I like Jared Goff coming into the season. He was getting drafted way too late for what he can actually do and the weapons around him. You know, I get the rushing upside of Anthony Richardson, but he had no business going in front of Jared Goff. No business.
Yeah.
So Goff is definitely going to be a start this week for me.
Yeah, start for me as well, because I think most people either faded the quarterback position and drafted Goff, or drafted someone like Anthony Richardson and then took Goff on the back end, or Justin Fields and took Goff on the back end. You could feel confident in a game, Thursday night game, starting him here. Let's talk about the running backs. We have 2 new faces for the Lions that are going to pick up exactly where they left off from last year's duo. You have David Montgomery, who's replacing Jamal Williams, and you have Jahmyr Gibbs replacing DeAndre Swift. To me, both running backs, I think David Montgomery's a better between the tackles runner than Jamal Williams was. So that's a big plus. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs is just as good of a weapon as DeAndre Swift was last year. And when looking into it here, if he could be healthier than DeAndre Swift, it's an even bigger win for the Lions. So I could see why they tried to jump up and grab a guy at the 12th overall pick like Jahmyr Gibbs. We have both of them being starters for us and starts. I think Montgomery would be a great running back 2, and Jahmyr Gibbs will be a low-end 2 flex option here, because it's a kind of how are they going to deploy him, and how are they going to use him week 1, game 1. Montgomery's in the perfect position to get goal line opportunity, and without Chris Jones there, this one defense has been pretty good against the rush, but now you lose your biggest weapon. That helps out Montgomery, and we can assume he's going to take the goal line opportunity roles, and they should be sitting around the goal line pretty often.
Yeah, I mean, this defense was pretty average against the run. They weren't great against the run, and they lost their best defensive lineman. Or they didn't lose him. He's just not there. Yeah. So Montgomery is the guy I want to start here if you're in PPR format, you want to start Gibbs. I'm perfectly fine with that. I would start Gibbs even in a standard format this year because I
Me
think,
too.
or this week, just because I do think that with the with the injuries and suspension that they're dealing with at the wide receiver position, they're going to need some pass catchers. And Gibbs, that we've seen him kind of used running out of the slot as kind of a two backfield set. So I do like that. I do want to say this about David Montgomery, though, is that David Montgomery is not a slouch in terms of receiving, a receiver out of the backfield. He had in his career 25 receptions, 54 receptions, 42 receptions, 34 receptions. And then pretty much in the last 3 years, all over 300 yards receiving out of the backfield.
Yeah.
He's a good receiver out of the backfield. He's not Jahmyr Gibbs, but he's a good receiver out of the backfield. So I think that helps him too. But he's definitely a better in between the tackles. He's going to get the goal line work, and he's going to get early down work here. I've been saying this for three months now, that this is the way it was going to play out. Even with Jahmyr Gibbs, and they're going to draft a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs because he is a special player, but he's not going to be the every down running back. He's not Alvin Kamara yet. And even with Alvin Kamara, if you look at early on in his career, he was splitting a lot of carries. And he continued to split a lot of carries.
Even his whole career he has never really been a, great. It's kind of like, Eckler at times where the guy really doesn't hit 200 rushes that often. I mean, I think last year was one of the highest rushing totals for Kamara. But it also was one of the lowest productions. I mean, we're not talking about Kamara here. I do agree with Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery. The thing about the two of them, too, against the Chiefs last year were one of the worst teams for receiving running backs. Running backs out the backfield catching. They could not stop them. So, like, if the lines are going to cover. Yeah, if Lions are going to do anything and try to employ that sort of method against them, I think they could be successful with either back. But obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs is the guy that you get the ball in space and he makes things happen. So we have a start for both of them. We also, our next start is Amon-Ra St. Brown. You got to start him here. He was a top 10 guy last year. He is a go-to target for Jared Goff, and he will be a go-to target week after week for Jared Goff here as well.
Yeah, he's going to be like Pat Mahomes for me pretty much this entire season. I think he is fairly matchup proof. Even against a shutdown corner, I think he is going to be matchup proof. So I really like him, especially this week. I don't think that there's no one else that's really going to catch passes. So I expect him to have 14, 15 targets this game.
Yeah, I do too.
And he converts most of those targets. So he's probably going to end up with 10 to 12 catches.
So we don't have any other starts for the wide receivers. The only wide receiver of note that we put on here is Marvin Jones as a sleeper. It is the beginning of the season. It's tough to say who's going to be the next man up. Marvin Jones was the wide receiver 3 last year for the Jaguars. He was the wide receiver 2 his whole career for the Lions. But at the Jaguars, he still had an 11.5 yards per reception. He finished with 46 catches, 529 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Over half of his receptions were first downs. He is a tried and true, good-handed, 33-year-old NFL wide receiver.
He's the oldest receiver in the league.
Yeah, I think he has an opportunity to give the Lions something early in this season before Jameson Williams comes back. Obviously, Khalif Raymond and Josh Reynolds have been on this roster for the past couple of years, and they also can produce as well, especially Reynolds getting some downfield deep threat opportunities. So you'll see him sprinkled in. But to me, Marvin Jones has always been the solid hands, the go-to guy. He did it with Matt Stafford. He did it with the Bengals before that, and he did it last year as well. Anytime his number was called upon, he gave you almost a first down, more than every other catch percentage for Trevor Lawrence. So he's a sleeper. I don't know if that's somebody that you're going to even be willing to pick up and draft. You have to have injuries depending upon what your lineup and who you drafted. If you went to go with Cooper Kupp and then you have somebody else who's questionable to play, and so all of a sudden you're looking at to pick somebody else up. It's a stretch to play Marvin Jones, but don't be surprised if he gets some volume this game. I'm
calling it. I've kind of said this before. I like narrative in the NFL, and it's him coming back to his team in his first game back against the defending Super Bowl champs. Marvin Jones going for 100 yards.
You heard it. You heard it here. You heard it here. And the last sleeper we have here in terms of a pass catcher is Sam Laporta, the rookie tight end. I said it already earlier I was going to put it as one of my bold picks in my short, and I ended up trading it out for another one. But I still think it's a bold pick for the season, and I think there's going to be 2 rookie wide receivers that end in the top 10, or rookie tight ends that end in the top 10 tight ends, and that's in Kincaid and Sam Laporta and or Luke Musgrave. These guys have fallen into great opportunities here. Laporta has won the job. He's following up behind Hawkinson, who had a great career with the Lions to start his career. And so to me, I think because the fact that there isn't a true wide receiver 2 here, Laporta is a great route runner. He's going to have mismatches. He's going to get himself in open lanes and open opportunity. And Jared Goff isn't afraid to throw to his tight end. He's proved that in the past too as well. So he's another one that if you are a Travis Kelce owner and he's still out there somehow, although I looked at the percentage owned, it's pretty high, go grab him. Or if you are deciding between somebody and Sam Laporta, I like the matchup here against the Chiefs for Laporta in a game that could hit the over, just because these 2 teams can score points. Yeah,
I like Sam Laporta as a start, and RB or a tight end 1 finish, so top 12 tight end this week.
Yeah, we have him as sleeper because again, it's most people haven't drafted him as your starter. But if you're willing to take a shot on him and you got some room to play around, he's a guy that could end up beating your starter out after this week here. And then the Detroit Lions defense is a no start for us. Yes, this defense is pretty good at the pass rush. Hutchinson is a great sack machine too as well. In fact, he had 2 interceptions last year too, so he's a great athlete. But to me, I'm not trusting either of his defenses. Pat Mahomes could shred any defense. I mean, look at the Super Bowl. One of the best pass rushers last year, pass rushing defenses, and a great defensive back system. And Pat Mahomes was able to carve them up any time he really wanted to.
Did he?
Well, he did good enough to win. So
the team did.
Well, the running game
better than him.
Jalen Hurts also runs the ball. I think he's a machine, and we know the Chiefs' defense is not as stout as the Eagles' defense.
Just saying. I mean, he got shut down last. They won the Super Bowl, but he didn't. He was under 300 yards. I just don't think that's going to happen this week. Sit Detroit. I don't know why you're drafting Detroit anyway. There's so many other defenses that you could have.
Yeah, listen. Yeah, he was under 300 yards. He had 182 yards. He threw for 3 touchdowns. Still,
I understand that, but he didn't shred them.
He only threw 27 passes. Because he didn't need to pass that often. So when I say exactly. But when you look at what he did the week before in Cincinnati, he had 43 attempts. He was 21 for 27, very accurate, threading the needles. Then he had a 77% completion percentage.
Listen,
shredding. I'm saying he shredded them. He just didn't put up 500 yards, but 182 yards and 3 touchdowns.
That's not shredding. If you're throwing for under 200 yards, you're not shredding them up.
I mean, the fact that he had 6 incompletions.
That's fine
altogether. I don't know. I beg to differ. But that being said, I digress. I don't think we agree. We don't think the Lions are going to be as a stout defense.
Start the Lions.
Yeah.
I don't think you should start the Lions at any point this season.
Yeah. I don't care if Travis Kelce isn't playing.